The Ravens have soared high since that team could not have gotten off to a better start.
You'll be on this journey with me.
Hey guys, now joined inside Nats Park.
And a busy day of Ravens live streaming continues. We had Jason Smith from Huddle It Up Films on the Vault during the lunch hour live stream to take a look at the 2024 draft, the wide receiver class, the tackle class, so on and so forth. And now some instant reaction time with Jadeveon Clowney going to the Carolina Panthers. The Ravens lose another key free agent. Not a surprise because he earned the money that you're about to see, the figures that he received from the Carolina Panthers. But big picture, this does certainly mean a lot for the Ravens, specifically at edge rusher. And they got quite a bit of work to do between now and week one, whether it be through the secondary free agent market, like the names of, the likes of Kyle Van Noy are still out there. Even Tyus Bowser, who they recently cut, is out there and available. But they're also probably going to have to do quite a bit of work in the draft next month as well when things kick off Thursday, April 25th. So without further ado, let's dive into the conversation. Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, all of the NFL insiders were all over this around the same time. The Panthers and free agent pass rusher Jadeveon Clowney have agreed to terms. Here it is. It's 2 years, $20 million with a max value of $24 million. Let's not forget, Jadeveon played for the Ravens last year, on a 1 year, $2.5 million deal. But then he went and had the career year, the year of his life, the season of his life. And here he is getting a much-deserved payday with the Carolina Panthers, who continue to spend this offseason under first-year head coach Dave Canales. So that's the latest right now. What we know is happening. Jadeveon reportedly, actually it's not even reportedly because the Panthers, there you have it, with a clever caption there, not clowning around, officially announced this move. Jadeveon is a Carolina Panther. And as Adam Schefter noted on Twitter, he is a South Carolina native, originally from Rock Hill, and he now becomes the second South Point High School player to land with Carolina, following a former high school teammate of his, a former Stallions teammate, that is, Stephon Gilmore. So maybe some of this was geographically driven, but at the same time, you'd have to think that being that he signed so many short-term, not all of them have been team-friendly in the last few years, but a lot of them have probably not been to his liking, or at least in his mind, what he felt like he was worth. And so now he gets a big, big payday. And you'd have to think that that was a major factor in this decision. Josina Anderson, friend of the show, also an NFL insider, actually just hung up with Jadeveon and his wife. Clowney's mother had not even yet heard the news at the time. I'll read the quote here directly from Josina's tweet. "We're going to just be 30 minutes from home. It's where we do all of our community and foundation work going into season 11. Plus, my granddaddy's getting older. And last year we had a lot of losses in our family. So honestly, it just feels like a full circle moment being closer." So there you go. I mean, it clearly was a major factor in his decision, geography-wise. But then when they throw that kind of figure at you, I don't think the Ravens were offering Jadeveon Clowney, with all due respect, that kind of money, $20 million worth up to potentially $24 million. His wife said he spoke with the Ravens. He also liked his visit with the Jets. Both places were fits, but the Panthers pursued the hardest. This is a special day for us. So clearly, Carolina wanted him. They went out and, in a sense, you could argue, overpaid for Jadeveon Clowney at age 30. But coming off, again, a career year, we'll dive into the stats and what the Ravens are losing and what they're going to have to replace, more importantly, now that Jadeveon Clowney is a Carolina Panther after this from BetUS.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
And in honor of March Madness, BetUS is giving you the chance to pick the winners of these 6 games that you see here on the screen ahead of the Sweet 16. If you pick the winners you could win $150 in free play. And here's the deal. No matter how many winners there are out there, like if a couple of you go 6 for 6, right, you get all 6 right, the prize is still yours, $150 in free play. So if you want to test your luck, if you want to check out and celebrate March Madness on betus.com, go visit the show notes below. The terms and conditions are also available down there to make sure you're all fully up to speed. But again, all that information can be found in the show notes below. And as always, as you've been hearing, BetUS is going to give you a 125% bonus, not only on your first deposit, but on your first 3 deposits up to $2,500 with the promo code JOIN125. That's JOIN125. On top of that, they're going to give you 10% gambler's insurance for your net losses if you are active every 6 months. Please bet responsibly. The statistics are legit for Jadeveon. Let's go big screen so you can see what we're looking at here. Just a lone season, the 2023 season in Baltimore, consisted of 17 games played, 15 of which were starts. Jadeveon had a career high 9.5 sacks, 43 tackles, 24 of which were solo, 9 tackles for loss, 19 quarterback hits. This dude was wreaking havoc and was highly, highly productive for the Ravens, given the kind of deal that he was on. What a sweetener for Eric DeCosta and the Ravens. To have brought him in the middle of training camp at a 1-year, $2.5 million rate, and to get that kind of production out of him, that was a big win. And that's exactly kind of what they did with Kyle Van Noy as well, bringing him in very late in the process, actually when the season began. So, again, a lot of this may very well have been out of the Ravens' hands, given the situation that they're in with Lamar's contract getting more and more significant as the years, what they're now in. He'll now go into year 2 of that 5-year mega deal that he signed. So that comes with certain implications and complications, really, from a cap standpoint and a front office standpoint. But now the Ravens are going to have to try and replace some significant production that now walks to Carolina. His pass rush win rate was among the league leaders in 2023. Parsons and Garrett and Anderson Jr., 3 of the top ones in the league. Well, Clowney and Watt were right below those guys at 25%. So 25% pass rush win rate. That's among the league's best back a season ago. And again, for Jadeveon to be doing this at age 30 shows you that he's still got a lot left in the tank. And now the Carolina Panthers are going to be gambling on that to see just how much longevity is left in him. I found this to be funny too. Anthony Reinhard from the NFL tweeted out that Clowney's new deal with Carolina will be his 6th contract in 6 seasons, and it'll be the first one he signed in the month of March. Look at that. That's wild. He's done 6 straight contracts in 6 seasons. 6 straight, including Baltimore a year ago. So unfortunately for Jadeveon, guy's gonna have to participate in training camp. I think it's safe to say he's gonna have to participate in training camp this time around. But again, the guy did plenty to put his name in this type of discussion. The Ravens weren't going to be one of those teams, though, to pay up the way Carolina was willing to. $10 million APY from the Panthers should upgrade, by the way, according to Nick Cordy here from Over the Cap, should upgrade a Ravens 2025 compensatory pick to the 5th round from the 6th round. So there are some draft implications here. And then just overall, with Jadeveon signing, the Ravens are in line to receive 4 compensatory selections in the 2025 draft, 4th, 5th, and 2 6th-rounders, plus the 7 picks they normally get. And as Jonas Schaefer noted on X, with Lamar's contract ballooning going into year 2, like I referenced a minute ago, the Ravens are going to have to get as many picks as they possibly can, and they understand that. Eric DeCosta understands that, and you're already seeing a ton of different picks lined up for the 2025 draft, and they probably won't be all that. They're probably not satisfied yet in that category because that is the lifeline of their team from a team building standpoint. So, just so you know. Now, looking forward, as some of you are mentioning in the live chat, yeah, there's a pretty big void that needs to be filled at edge rusher. We don't know what David Ojabo will be at this point in his young career. We don't know if availability is going to continue to be an Achilles heel for him. We, I think, all feel very optimistic about a guy like Odafe Owe, but are we really going to be willing to go into the season with that kind of like thin outside linebacker room? I say no way. You need as much help as you can get in that room. Right now, their pass rusher group looks like David Ojabo, Odafe Owe, Tavius Robinson, who's a second-year player, and Malik Ham. So, yeah. Can they bring back Kyle Van Noy? Perhaps this accelerates those conversations that he himself confirmed last week that they are indeed having. Kyle Van Noy has mentioned that he is in talks with Eric DeCosta and the Ravens front office. Perhaps they make a heavier play at him to bolster this group as a veteran who, as we learned last year, has a lot left in his tank. And then they're going to have to retool through the draft. Some of you are mentioning in the comment section either your confidence or lack thereof in that duo, Ojabo and Owe. Manuel, Mexico City's finest. It's all now in Owe's and Ajabo's shoulders to be what we want them to be. T.O. says maybe Owe and Ojabo will be inspired by seeing their Nigerian brother, Justin Madubuike, get paid. Tanya, Clowney played well in our scheme in that defensive line. He's never had that much production on any of his prior teams. I think he had one solid year where he was at 9.5 with Houston, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check the 2017 and 2018 seasons. He went 9.5 and 9 sacks respectively with the Houston Texans. That's when he was at his peak. And he did have a 9-sack season in 2021 with Cleveland. But I'm with you, Tony. Like, it did seem like a great fit in Baltimore. So much so, I remember John Harbaugh's one of his interviews, I think with the team out at the Combine in February. He mentioned to a reporter that he ran into Jadeveon's agent in Indianapolis, and his agent told him that Jadeveon's never, ever ended a season happy until this past one in Baltimore, for whatever that's worth. What else do we have here? Yes, Christina, Clowney did get paid for sure. Dre Dog is kind of thinking where I'm at as well. Kyle Van Noy's price just went up. Tyron, money talks. He's earned it. We knew this was coming. Absolutely. This is not a surprise in the slightest. Andrew thinks that the Ravens should trade for Hassan Reddick right now. Clowney did go back home. Lives about 30 minutes away from his new employer. Dominic thinks that everyone's overhyping Clowney and Van Noy. They were filling holes in the past offseason. No reason to believe scheme plus Roquan wasn't the largest influence. Look, every position room is better off when it's bolstered by a veteran. Let's say that. And I think what Van Noy and Clowney provided to a room that is very young and inexperienced, I don't even think you can put a price tag on that. And so that's So not only am I thinking about the production that's walking out the door right now, but I'm also thinking about the leadership, the experience, the locker room, right? Like all of that. That's significant. But what's also significant is the price tag that the Ravens were unable and unwilling to match when it comes to what the Carolina Panthers offered. And if you're just tuning in, here is that number. 2 years, $20 million, with a maximum value worth up to $24 million. So there you have it. That's big money right there. Big money. And while we're on the topic, of free agency, this just came out a short while ago. Former Lions wide receiver Josh Reynolds is signing a 2-year deal worth up to $14 million with the Denver Broncos. Last week, there were reports that he was one of 2 veteran free agent wide receivers to have visited Baltimore. The other was Michael Gallup, who, of course, has spent his career with the Dallas Cowboys. So now Josh Reynolds goes from Detroit on a 2-year deal worth up to $14 million. We don't know the specific figures, but worth up to $14 million with the Denver Broncos. So that's one less free agent wide receiver who the Ravens clearly are looking for to add to their room that's on the board. Michael Gallup remains unsigned. There are other names that are out there, but I am expecting this team to retool in the draft. I would guess. You never like to throw out guesses or predictions when it comes to the draft because oftentimes they go the exact opposite. But I would have to think that a day 2 wide receiver, I'd be willing to venture into that prediction side of things that the Ravens might consider doing from a front office perspective, especially given how deep that class is. Let's get to some other questions that you guys have coming in. Some of you weren't a fan of Josh Reynolds. If I had to pick between the 2, if it was Michael Gallup or Josh Reynolds, I'm not saying that that's the only 2 veterans that they're looking at, but if I had to pick between the 2, I'd probably be more comfortable with Josh Reynolds just because of some of the drop-off, statistically speaking, that Michael Gallup struggled with since his injury a few years ago. But they're going to be looking at other guys. They will definitely be looking at other guys. Let me ask you this. Let me ask my live chat this. Between David Ajabo and Odafe Owe, who are you more confident in terms of who could be that guy this year? Are you expecting like some sort of crazy emergence from Ajabo now that he's healthy and he's had a full season of rehab? I should say a full off season of rehab. Or are you riding with Odafe because of the tremendous amount of upside that comes with him and all the pressures and the havoc that he was wreaking week in and week out a year ago? I feel a little bit more confident in Odafe, personally speaking. So much so that if I'm Eric DeCosta, I would rather pick up the 5th-year option for Odafe over Rashad, simply due to, well, supply and demand could be in that conversation. But when I look at the wide receiver room and I look at the outside linebacker room, there's one that's like now in dire need, and there's one that at least has some answers and probably more on the way in the form of a veteran and potentially a day 2 wide receiver. So when I look at those 2 rooms, and if you're thinking about investing, I want to make sure that the outside linebackers room, which is extremely, almost razor thin now with Jadeveon leaving, and we'll see what ends up happening with Kyle Van Noy. But to me, there's a lot more questions than there are answers in the outside linebackers room, and I don't think the same can be said. Don't get me wrong. There are questions. There are no doubt questions in the wide receiver room. but I don't think there are as many. I don't think there are as many in the outside linebackers room as I think that there are in the wide receivers room, if that makes sense. What else are you guys chatting about? Trying to get more live streaming in here. If you haven't already heard, Sarah and I are putting on our first ever in-person marathon draft party live stream at Baltimore's Soundstage concert venue right across the street from Power Plant in the Inner Harbor. It's 124 Marketplace. And I'm fired up about this. $40 gets you in the door. Thursday, April 25th, 7 o'clock, the doors open. Of course, we're celebrating opening night of the 2024 NFL Draft. Catering will be provided by my friends at Clean Cuisine, one of my meal prep company brand sponsors. Premium tailgate buffet. They got fantastic food. I cannot wait for some of you to try it out. Of course, the live stream will be available on YouTube and Twitter and across all of our social platforms if you can't make it in person. But tickets are now available, and you can find the link in the show notes below to secure those tickets if you haven't already done so. We would love to see you out there. It's a very important event for us. It's a big-time event for us, something that we're super excited about. Would love to see you guys there. Dre Dog, will they have crab cakes? Without question, they will have crab cakes. No doubt. Some of their best stuff. Don, what's up, Don? How you doing, brother? Good to hear from you. Appreciate you dropping by the live stream. How about the J.K. Dobbins conversation? That's something I had earlier today with Jason Smith from Huddle It Up Films. J.K. has officially been cleared by his doctor, Dr. Elatraj. So the question I have for you, and I think I already have my answer, is, and let me just pull up the slide that's attached to it. There he is. JK's been cleared for football activities. Dr. Neil Elatraj wrote in a letter to select teams today, noting that JK looks, quote, outstanding coming off a torn Achilles. And we all know that JK has averaged 5.8 yards per carry throughout his career. He's expected to take some visits soon. We know the Ravens currently have 3 players under contract for the 2024 season, headlined by Derrick Henry, their biggest free agent acquisition. They also have Keaton Mitchell, who's going to be probably starting the season down. And they have Justice Hill and a practice squad soon to be formed, of course. But the reason why I bring it up is, does JK get to a point here in this process, which doesn't seem to be imminent, him getting added to a team, or at least him being added to the Ravens? I don't think there's any kind of rush whatsoever, given what's transpired, unfortunately, for JK's sake in recent years. Wouldn't you just, if you're JK, say to yourself, man, I need a fresh start. I need a fresh start. I need an opportunity to be the guy. And unfortunately for JK, when he was fully healthy, the Ravens didn't allow him to be that guy, to be the guy. That was the Greg Roman era. That was a very much running back by committee era. That was splitting time with Gus Edwards era. And so if I'm JK, even though times have changed in Baltimore, I've just seen the front office spend some significant money to go and get Derrick Henry. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm saying, you know what? It just might be time for a new chapter. And could you blame him? Could you blame him whatsoever? Absolutely not. So, if I'm JK, I want to see what's out there. Perhaps Dallas could be a landing spot. Other running back needy teams are out there as well. I know Dallas actually was just looking through JK's likes on X, and he liked a tweet about him going to the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, it doesn't mean anything crazy, but something to be on the lookout for, because the Cowboys, I thought, were in the market for Derrick Henry at one point, but then I listened to Derrick on the Pivot podcast yesterday, and he said that they never even went after him at all. Some comments from you guys are weighing in on the J.K. Dobbins conversation, which has certainly been a difficult one. I have Horace Torres says that he loves J.K., but without Lamar, he'll be a poor man Zeke if he goes to Dallas. Dominic writes, tough for J.K., big what could have been in recent Ravens lore. Dre Dog, the Ravens give J.K. the best option to get another contract. Dalvin Cook is legit. He was just stuck behind a crappy line. I don't know how much left. I don't know how much Dalvin Cook has left in him. I like Dalvin a lot, and I definitely thought the Ravens would use him more. But I'm not sure if I can sit here and tell you, like, Dalvin should be given the money that potentially could be going to J.K. if you're the Ravens. To be honest with you, I don't even know if Dalvin's going to be on a 53-man roster come week 1. Like, let's not forget, he went unclaimed after the Jets released him. Then the Ravens picked him up, brought him to their practice squad, and then elevated him not long after. So I don't know about that. Anyway. Again, if you're just tuning in, Jadeveon Clowney is the newest member of the Carolina Panthers. 2 years, $20 million with a max value of $24 million. And now the Ravens find themselves in a position where they got to figure out what's going on in their pass rusher department. Perhaps this speeds things up a little bit for Kyle Van Noy. But the Ravens definitely have quite a bit to address in the outside linebacker room, which I expect them to do both through free agency and the draft. So we will see. But a lot is going on in Baltimore this week, not only with free agency, but of course the Orioles, at least as of right now. I don't believe opening day has been postponed, but it is raining awfully hard out there. So let's see if the team decides to make a decision before the end of today. But right now, it's a 3:05 first pitch inside Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Looking forward to popping over to the ballpark and taking part in always just a historical day, special day in Baltimore, opening day. I think a lot of you definitely are with me there. It's just an awesome day for this town. And given what's taken place this week and the lives lost with the Key Bridge collapsing, to be honest with you, the timing couldn't be more spot on. And I think we all need a little bit of opening day in our lives. So I will have a video coming up on YouTube later this evening, later today, that kind of just breaks down everything related to the Orioles and getting ready for the 2024 season to officially launch. So I appreciate you guys for dropping by this episode. As always, thanks to BetUS for sponsoring the channel and this specific episode. And I will talk to you guys at some point soon. Well, just a couple hours. Be on the lookout for some Orioles content. Talk to you soon.